Palestine, Israel's ongoing shelling of civilian structures continue. Health authorities registered 4,460 Palestinians killed in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. In Honduras, the government promotes a draft law on land titling, regulation, and governance, which aims to recognize and protect the rights of indigenous and Afro-Honduran peoples' territories. In Kenya, Angolan President Joao Lourenço is on a two-day state visit to strengthen bilateral ties between the two countries. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Palestine, the Israeli siege continues. To date, more than 4,460 Palestinians have been killed in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported that 4,385 people died in the Gaza Strip and more than 14,000 injured since the beginning of the aggression on October 7th. Meanwhile, in the West Bank, Israeli forces killed 84 Palestinians and wounded more than 1,400. 70% of the dead are children, women, and the elderly. The health ministry warned that these figures could multiply in the coming hours as the relentless Israeli attacks continue and as bodies are pulled from under the rubble of their destroyed homes. According to local media, during their ongoing bombardment of the Gaza Strip, the Israeli occupying forces completely destroyed more than 14,000 homes, while another 133,370 were partially damaged, including 10,127 which are no longer fit for living. The destruction of 5,500 residential buildings, including 14,200 apartments, was also reported. Among the affected infrastructure are also dozens of service facilities and 160 schools. Also, the number of mosques completely destroyed by the occupation amounted to more than 17. On early Saturday, at least 30 people, including 3 children, were killed in Israeli bombings. Local sources say that the bombings targeted several areas in Rafah, south of the Gaza Strip. Also in Rafah, 6 members of the civil defense team were seriously wounded as a result of Israeli shelling on a civil defense headquarters. On Saturday, the Rafah crossing, the border crossing between Gaza and Egypt, through which humanitarian aid can be delivered to the Israeli-occupied Palestinian enclave, was opened. Some 20 trucks carrying food and medical supplies, among other cargo, began passing through the crossing. The humanitarian aid will be handed over to representatives of the Egyptian Red Crescent for distribution to civilians in the Gaza Strip affected by the Israeli bombardment. However, a CNN correspondent on the Egyptian side of the border, the Rafah crossing was closed shortly after the 20 vehicles filled with humanitarian aid for Palestinian civilians passed through. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi said his country did not close the crossing, but that the Israeli shelling hindered the entry of aid into Gaza. At the same time, Al Arabiya sources reported that Egyptian-U.S. coordination are underway to evacuate foreign nationals from Gaza to Egypt through Rafah. The Peace Summit, a forum for world leaders to discuss a way out of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, opened in Egypt. With the presence of more than 20 countries and international organizations, the Gaza Peace Summit, organized by the Egyptian government, started this Saturday. 2 weeks after the beginning of this new conflict in the Gaza Strip, the international community is trying to prevent the situation from spreading to the rest of the Middle East. Although the meeting is attended by the Palestinian president and other Arab leaders, it is worth noting the absence of Israeli representatives at the summit, which aims to achieve a ceasefire.
Egypt affirms and reiterates its complete rejection of the forced displacement of Palestinians and the exodus to the Egyptian territories in Sinai, as this is nothing but a final liquidation of the Palestinian issue, an end to the dream of an independent Palestinian state, and the eradication of the struggle of the Palestinian people and the Arab and Islamic people.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for action to end the ongoing conflict during the International Peace Summit in Cairo.
The time has come for action. Action to end this god-awful nightmare, and action to build a future worthy of the dreams of the children of Palestine, Israel, the region, and our world.
Meanwhile, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas warned against displacing Palestinians from Gaza, West Bank, and Jerusalem.
We warn against attempts to displace our people from Gaza to elsewhere. We also warn against any expulsion of Palestinians from their homes or displacement from Jerusalem or the West Bank. We will not accept displacement, and we will remain steadfast on our land, no matter what the challenge is.
In India, despite a police ban on rallies in support of Palestine, hundreds of people gathered on Friday night in different cities to express their solidarity with the people of Gaza, who have been suffering from the relentless Israeli airstrikes for more than 10 days. In Mumbai, Kerala, and Bangalore, the Indian people continue to demonstrate their support for the Palestinians. In one of the displays in South Chennai, G. Ramakrishnan, member of the political bureau of the CPI, condemned Israel's brutality against the Palestinians in the occupied territories. India's Muslim community, the second largest in the world with over 200 million followers, dedicated its fasting and prayer day on Friday to solidarity with its brothers under siege by the Zionist regime of Benjamin Netanyahu. In Mumbai, the day before, Muslim organizations held a congregation of solidarity with Palestine, and later a crowd of followers of the Prophet Muhammad gathered in Islam Gymkhana, one of the most prominent avenues to demonstrate their rejection of the Zionist actions. Australia also held demonstrations in support of the Palestinian resistance. The mobilization took place this Saturday and was attended by thousands of people who marched through the streets of Sydney from the City Hall. The event was attended by both Australian sympathizers and Palestinian migrants residing in the country. During the march, the protesters denounced the crimes committed by the Israeli occupation forces and demanded an immediate ceasefire. Let's take now a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Those stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. Argentina continues on Saturday with a 48-hour electoral closing period before Sunday's general elections. From Friday until this Saturday, it is forbidden to carry out acts of proselytism, to publish and spread polls, and to open party premises located within a radius of 80 meters from the polling places. Nor may voters' meeting, shows, parties, sports activities, or the sale of alcoholic beverages be held. More than 35 million citizens are called to elect the president and vice president of the country, while Buenos Aires residents will also vote for the head of government of the autonomous city and those of the provinces of Catamarca, Entre Rios, and Buenos Aires for their respective governors. Argentines will also define who will occupy 130 seats in the Chamber of Deputies and 24 in the Senate, instances that are renewed in parts every 2 years. On Saturday, more than 76,000 workers of the Argentine Post Office continued the distribution of 104,520 ballot boxes throughout the national territory for the general elections of Sunday, October 22nd. The presidential aspirants are Sergio Massa, Unión por la Patria, Javier Milei, La Libertad Avanza, Patricia Bullrich, Juntos por el Cambio, Juan Schiaretti, Hacemos por Nuestro País, and Miriam Bregman, Frente de Izquierda y de Trabajadores Unidad. In order to win in the first round and occupy the Casa Rosada, a candidate must obtain more than 45% of the ballots or 40% with a difference of at least 10 points with respect to the second most voted, failing which it will be necessary to go to a runoff election, which is scheduled for November 19. The government of Honduras is promoting a draft law on land titling, regulation, and governance which aims to recognize and protect the rights of indigenous and Afro-Honduran peoples' territories. The National Agrarian Institute of Honduras announced that the proposed regulation will undergo a socialization process to decide whether or not to authorize the indigenous people to exploit the natural resources in a sustainable and well-organized manner, respecting the culture and beliefs of the ancestral peoples. According to the Vice President of the Confederation of Indigenous Peoples of Honduras, Jose Ramon Melgar, the draft law has already been discussed with other government entities, such as the Forest Conservation Institute, and more recently with representatives of 9 indigenous communities. The law is intended to have a gender focus with opportunities for indigenous women and youth to make proper use of the resources it protects. In Panama, social and environmental groups reject the agreement between the state and a transnational mining company, denouncing legal violations and irreversible damage to the environment. Despite the rejection of the mining contract, the country's president, Laurentino Cortizo, approved this Friday a contract between the government and Panama Mining, which establishes a minimum yearly income of more than $170 million and state supervision of the mining operation. The signing, published in the official state gazette of the law, led to clashes between demonstrators and local authorities, with injuries and the use of tear gas. A spokesman for the Alianza Pueblo Libre por la Vida said they will continue to fight until the mining contract is overturned. Peru's government admitted that the national economy is in recession to official figures in spite of repeated denials. The Minister of Economy and Finance, Alex Contreras, made the statement in a visit to the parliament in which he asked for the approval of a supplementary credit that will be used in the allocation of funds for the reactivation of the economy. The situation was made clear in a report by the National Institute of Statistics and Information Technology, according to which the economy suffered a 0.63% drop in August. Until a few days ago, Contreras had denied that the country was in recession, as economies of different tendencies had warned months ago, and stated that the economy would recover in the third and fourth quarters of this year. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. In Pakistan, thousands of supporters of former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif demonstrated on Saturday for his return after 4 years of self-exile in London. Earlier this week, the Islamabad High Court granted Sharif protective bail until Tuesday, October 24th, removing the threat of immediate arrest once he returns to the village. Numerous banners and posters were put up in Lahore to welcome his arrival. Sharif's return was publicized for months by Sharif's party, whose leaders hope his presence could revive a now flagging popularity. The former Prime Minister was removed from office by the Supreme Court in 2017, following a special investigation into money laundering and corruption stemming from the disclosure of the so-called Panama Papers.
The current situation in Pakistan is related to inflation. The people are very poor. Only Sharif can control the situation. We worked on construction sites, but now with these conditions, we are all jobless, because all the construction sites are closed now. They will return. We have full faith in them, that they will promote the construction sector as well.
In Kenya, President William Ruto received his Angolan counterpart Joao Lourenço at the official presidential residence in Nairobi. The Angolan president is on a 2-day state visit to strengthen bilateral ties between the two countries. After the meeting, the Kenyan president announced that both nations will push for the resumption of direct flights between Nairobi and Luanda. Adding, Kenya-Angola trade has been on the rise in the past 4 years. Besides flights, the President Ruto announced the activation of a visa-free regime to ease the free movement of people. The two leaders also had a joint media briefing where Kenya pledged to support Angola's candidature for membership in the African Union Peace and Security Council. Kenyan President William Ruto and his Angolan counterpart Joao Lorenzo called on the M23 rebels to move to military quarters in order to move forward towards achieving peace in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo.
I have briefed Mr. President on what Kenya is doing alongside our East African community partners in stabilizing Eastern DRC. I have also congratulated President Lorenzo for his not just participation but leadership in especially the mediation efforts between DRC and Rwanda, and we believe that it is an achievable aim to engage in consultation, stabilize eastern part of DRC, and allow the people of DRC in general to benefit from their progress, from their development, and from stability and progress in their region.
We have jointly made great progress, both in the Luanda and the Nairobi processes. Jointly we have made good progress, but we have become stagnant on one item. We need to have the M23 cantonment carried out.
On Saturday, India successfully launched the first unmanned trial run of its upcoming crewed orbital mission, the latest milestone for its spacefaring ambitions. The Gaganyaan mission, Skycraft in English, is slated to send 3 astronauts into Earth orbit in 2025, an important yardstick of the Indian Space Research Organization's technical capabilities. Saturday's rocket tested the emergency escape system of its crew module, which separated from the thruster and made a soft sea landing about 10 minutes after the launch. The Indian Space Research Organization will conduct a series of 20 major tests, including carrying a robot to outer space, before the final manned mission takes place. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has announced plans to send a man to the moon by 2040, following a year of triumph for India's space program.
The crew escape system for the Gaganyaan program through a test vehicle demonstration in which the vehicle has gone up to a Mach number, which is a speed of sound slightly above that, and initiated an abort condition for the crew escape system to function. The crew escape system took the crew module away from the vehicle, and subsequent operations of the crew module separation from the crew escape system, all the parachutes opening, and touched down in the sea at the required velocity has been very well accomplished, and we have got confirmation of the data of all of this.
We have come to the end of this news briefing. You can find these and many other stories on our website, TeleSUREnglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.